Now, the Prime Minister's lost her head of department, Terry Moran, and I sort of had the feeling that it might have come earlier than this had Ken Henry not left Treasury, and so he sort of stayed around perhaps a little longer than he wanted to. What are you reading into it?
I don't think you should read anything into it. A very professional, well-regarded public servant decided to retire. He was treated appallingly by Kevin Rudd, who basically refused to speak to him, but as far as I know, he's got no issues with Julia Gillard. The more disturbing thing about those changes, I thought, was the appointment as head of the Defence Department, which has always been run by a civilian in the past, by someone who's a retired Major General, but he only retired 5 or 6 years ago from that. So you don't have that balance which you were supposed to have before between a civilian oversight of the whole area and the defence against the military guy who, naturally enough, is supposed to be head of the Australian Defence Force. And this is at a time when they've got some huge budget problems coming up with overruns on the costs in big areas, naval shipbuilding and in fighter aircraft and so forth.
Can we just back up the truck a little bit, Brian, because I don't agree with you that there weren't some issues with Terry Moran. I think there were ministers that were dissatisfied with the extent to which his operation of the Prime Minister and Cabinet centralised and set up sort of pockets of expertise within his office that challenged, disagreed with and sought to dominate at some time policy forming groups in other departments. And I think that there were ministers, well, specifically Anthony Albanese, who's fairly, who's been reported on this, had difficulties with that.
But the Prime Minister's Department for something like 30 years has developed its own specialist expertise in just about every departmental area. It used to in the 1950s and the 1960s, but thereafter, so there's nothing new about the idea that the Prime Minister's Department will have some specialist expertise to give a second opinion
I think
on
it's
what
definitely increased over...
I don't think it has, but, you know...